Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, and Jim will be here in a minute. So, Tracy, I'll turn it over to you for us to get started. And
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Commissioners. I thought we could just go department by department, and if there's any questions, concerns, anything that you would like to address within those departments from your notes from the hearings, please let me know. And then we'll, like Commissioner Laird said, we'll try to get through the less complicated ones first, and then we can tackle the bigger ones this afternoon, or see where we're at as we break for lunch. Do I have any concerns with that strategy or questions?
My notes are in the order of the presentation. We can deviate from that a little bit, but it may take me a little skip around, but I want you to lead this, so.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you. So I think we'll start with the ag, or cooperative extension, it might read in your book. So were there any questions or concerns regarding that department? Now, according to any of my notes, the increases would be for the salary and burden increases that were given during the wage study, unless you have any other notes.
The only thing I have on there, Tracy, is that on the travel, they had 7,000, and it showed that there were 10,000. I wrote that down in the side portion. For this year, it'd been 10,000 in the past, and then this year it showed 7,000 on their spreadsheet, but it showed 10,000.
It's 10,000 in their notes,
In my notes.
in their notes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's, in the spreadsheet, that's the only thing that I could see.
I changed that
Split
to
Okay.
10. I changed that to 10. I did correct that. Thank you.
Okay. That's the only thing that I saw in there, so.
Thank you. And as I'm putting these books together, I skim through the narratives, and try to catch the pertinent numbers. I do not read the narratives in their entirety for the most part, so. So I will just leave it to you to tell me when you want to move on.
Well, there's really no change from last year, is there?
their main increase was just in wages.
Yes, which
Yep.
stemmed from the wage study
Mhm.
and the applicable burden.
Well, it looks like that's the main thing on this one. Anybody see anything different or have any concerns about this section?
The only other thing on the wages in here, under the Wyoming retirement, it shows a decrease over last year. Does that need to be changed on there also to reflect what the actual cost is? Because it shows that they were already at 18,724 at the end of April, and they're only requested 15,045. So I'm guessing that number is probably going to be closer to 20,000 for their retirement.
Let me do some quick math.
Okay.
They didn't really address that narrative, did they?
Yeah, it should probably be 21,564.
So that does need to be adjusted
Yeah,
so that it's
and I just-
accurate.
I just did that.
Okay,
Thank you.
you bet. I think that's What about medical insurance on there also? They've got, last year it was 47,880, and this year it's only showing 39,690.
I have 47,880,
Okay, 880.
yes.
They're little numbers.
I know, there, it is small
Yeah,
numbers.
and so
yes.
so does that need to be changed to?
No, I have 47,880 for.
Okay, as requested?
Yes,
Okay, all right, okay.
thank you.
I'm just going off what I have in front of me, so.
Thank you.
We don't take any action here, do we?
No, the budget won't be approved until the July 17th meeting.
Okay.
Anything else on this one? Okay,
Okay, moving to the assessor's office, please. So the major change that I noted in the assessor's office is she's requesting 4 additional field staff. And that total, including burden, is $241,317. And then she also has a litigation legal expense. That was a new line item last fiscal, and we had put 20,000 in that line. And this year, she requested 40, just due to the unknowns of the BOE, I believe.
I would go for 2.
Well, I was wondering, when was the last increase in staff in that office, if we remember? Was this a,
It was offered to them 4 years ago, but it didn't really go that way. So at this point in time, instead, those salaries were realigned to the people that they currently had, so.
oh, right,
So,
Okay.
I mean, I can see 2 at this point in time, but, and then we can readdress it next year if that's where we need to go.
well, I'm comfortable with less than 4. I don't know what that number is, but we need to think about it a little bit.
Well, they have to
It
run,
seems
they run the
like
half in teams, so that it needs to be an even number for field staff.
I hate to say this, but the public doesn't want us to give them anything. And the reason is because of the tax raises that are going to come out of these assessments.
Statutorily, the county is required to do certain things, and we have to provide the personnel to be able to do those as well. But with us using the flyovers, I don't know why. That's the whole argument of the flyovers, is to reduce personnel. So,
I don't recall, Jim, did they get that money that they wanted, 300,000 or 400,000 to do the flyovers and stuff? That Eagle Eye View or whatever it is?
Eagle View.
We didn't approve that, did we? But I agree with you on what you just said.
Litigation expense went up, doubled, but, if, that was, I think they're anticipating a big fight with Sinclair, and that's, an important one that I think have proper representation in, so that was one of my notes.
Do you know what they're assessed at now, you guys? They want a $175 million reduction. I'm just wondering what they're assessed at.
I don't know, Dallas, off the top of my head.
excuse me, lower the effective Tracy.
Half of 241, I believe is what I said, right? Yeah, the total was 24317 for salaries and burden.
I don't know if there's a question or an answer pending, but there's a $5,600 desk quote, and I didn't have any notes on whether that's necessary or just desirable. And not that that's a whole lot of money, but as we're looking at some of these things, moving forward, whether it's this office or other offices, it might be more of a time to defer some of that rather than some of the employee, salary bumps.
Mr. Chairman, those desks, that was for 10 desks, and that was to include the 4 additional field staff. So I'm not sure if that is new furniture for the entire field's crew, but it was for a total of 10 desks.
Yeah, I was doing the math too, at 10 minus 4 equals, so I wasn't sure the exact status. Again, it's not all the money, it's just kind of more of a philosophy on some of this stuff moving forward. So I just throw
My
that out there.
recollection too is that there's another item, that maybe it's not in the budget, and that's to remodel all those offices downstairs for about $250,000. That's my recollection.
And Mr. Chairman, that's in the maintenance budget when we get there.
But it applies directly to her as an expenditure, and I'm not sure that's necessary either.
We'll talk about that later. It was a lot more money than I was thinking it might be, by like tenfold. But that's not my area of expertise.
Well, I guess looking at the desks themselves, I mean, it looks like she's replacing potentially all the desks. Right, so my opinion on that is that I don't think just because we're remodeling a space that we put brand-new equipment and outfit it. I mean, if we got stuff that works and works well, then I don't see a need to.
I don't know why. Yes, we're supposed to be
Correct.
Well, you said something very important, and that is that the flyover deal, we keep them out of the field, and they have to set in there, and I guess look at videos, but I agree with you on the flyover thing. I just don't see the need for more people. I'd like to see her first year to see how she compares up to what Keating did, and whether all of this is really needed or not. That's I just would see, it's a new deal, so they can live with the status quo, in my opinion, for 1 year, and we can then have a comparison. But it doesn't appear to me that much has changed, actually.
I'm going to stay on the desk just for a second. My only concern with that is I'm sure every one of you drove down the alley this morning and you saw the trailer sitting out there loaded up with chairs that some of those don't look like they're in all that bad of shape, but we've got a trailer full of chairs that are all going to the dump today, that people replaced them with other chairs, and some of those look like they're in decent condition, but I just don't think we should replace things just to replace them. If they're functional, then let's save a few dollars. And
Where'd those come from?
those were all stacked up in the HOJ on the 3rd floor or 4th floor, and we've been meaning to get a bunch of that stuff out of there, and I see they finally got their dump trailer back there
Did they
to
get
do
that
that.
whole couch out of their basement?
I don't know if they did or not, but
Yeah, the one that was cutting down.
And Jim, I guess back to your, just a question towards you, it says they got to meet the statutory requirements. It's not a amount of personnel, it's just they have to be able to get through these rotations every 6 years, so,
in the flyover counties.
okay.
So the only reason they need to go out to the field is if they see a discrepancy between past years and present on the flyover parcels.
What's that one
Or if they
phrase
haven't
in Washington
contested
where they
it.
actually have to inspect something? Does flying over, looking at the pictures count for an inspection?
But the contested stuff is what they're looking at right now.
Right.
Which makes sense, because you always want to have eyes on something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
12 or 1,300.
We can come back to this, that once we actually have a room for them available, it's not even really good.
Mhm.
Who knows when we get to that point? I'm fine with 2 for 1 team, extra, if we need to go, extra personnel. I'm with everybody else. Do we need an extra team? She says yes. Aaron is, like everybody likes to do, to learn the county.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, Jim.
No, I'm just saying that I don't really necessarily see a huge need, but if she needs 2 more, or 4, if she says she needs 4, I'm okay with 2, but whatever you guys want to do.
Mr. Chairman, I hate to suggest this because I don't want it to open up a can of worms. That said, if we have some specific questions for the assessor, maybe on a break or at lunch, one of us could follow up on a couple of these specific items. I don't know how you'd like to handle it, but I think I'm of the opinion that it could be 0 field staff or 2 field staff. I don't know about the 4. I'm not sure how the flyover fits in, and I don't know how many desks. So all those things, I mean, we can, in my mind, make an arbitrary decision, but it seems like we're kind of being asked to do that, at least based on my recollection.
Does anybody remember, Jim, you guys remember whether Keating asked for more staff last time?
He always asks for more
Did
stuff.
he? Thank you. Do you know how much he asked for?
I think it was 4, wasn't it?
4 or 6. That one year he asked for like 6 or something.
Comparing it to
Yeah.
Well, Peter, I agree. I don't want to open a can of worms because we go ask questions to one person after a presentation and we're opening the door to go talk to everybody. However, I would be curious if those desks are, if they're falling apart, that's one thing. But if they're functional, then that kind of helps make a decision as far as that goes there. As far as the employees go, if Keating's asked for the last few years for extra staff, that makes you think that maybe there is a need for additional staff to be added on, but if it's been denied every time,
Well, he was asking because he wanted to keep up with Laramie County. That's what he kept using as his reference point. So,
I still think that we should be able to take a look at what's happening now versus first year in office and then make a conclusion for the next budget. And then we can always, it's just absolutely imperative, we always have the authority to come back and correct a problem that might exist that would be detrimental to the county. But right now, I don't see any detriment. I don't see need to, I don't know, we'll get to the other part when Papa gets here, but a lot of departments would like to add a lot of people. And so I don't know where you start or where you stop. Peter, I'm not sure it's a good idea to be talking to people after all this is done and presented. I think that is the can of worms we're talking about.
Although with that said, I am curious as to how they arrive at 4.
Because they want to. I don't know how your mind thinks.
And Mr. Chairman, it's not out of the norm for, these type of questions to be raised, obviously, as we're going through this process. And historically, we've reached out to department heads during this time, so I'm not going to say that is unreasonable.
We don't need to bring it in a presentation, but we can ask them questions as we go through this. and see what we want to do.
Mr. Chairman, if you have the time, not to put it on you, but you're the boss, if you have time to talk to the assessor and report back to us, I'm totally fine with that.
I was going to give it to you. You brought it up.
Peter, as long as the board can talk to everybody that needs to be talked to, I'll go for it.
No. So questions that you have then are desk in the 4 positions, how they arrive at them, correct?
Right, and doesn't the investment in the flyover obviate the need for some of the staff?
Okay. So are there other questions that we have on this, or? I think we've obviously talked about the increase in the budget for legal expenses. And then education and certifications. What was that increase?
Mr. Chairman, can I address the legal expenses?
Go ahead.
The statute says that we do have to provide her with a lawyer for these matters. But there are BOC hearings, and I suppose the one with the refinery will be a little more time-consuming. And I don't know whether we have a rule as to how much time people get on one of those, but I know that what she said is they've hired some big firm that's an expert on this kind of thing that they're going to bring in and have testify. And so I don't know whether she would need an expert or not, or whether this matter can be settled out of before it hits. But and Peter, I don't know either if it really is responsible and legal to assign one of the county attorneys as a lawyer on a temporary basis to her, but the statute does say they can't do both. So that's just a thought.
Do we have any other questions then, besides the ones that I've written down, or concerns on this one? Okay, we'll move on.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, what's next in your book? Mine's-
Child support.
Child support enforcement? Okay, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that's a total pass-through, so typically, that's approved as presented.
Okay. Next one after that is clerk of court.
Okay. So the one note that I do have, and we can take this after you look at Department 11, was in Department 12, an additional request for jury expense.
Oh, and was that 300,000 extra?
She had originally asked for 65,000 and then wanted it brought to 300, if I remember correctly. Now, that is based on the way they are going, the new way that they're going to start paying jurors. Now, they pay the jurors as they come in to collect their money or request their money. Her new system that she wants to put into place, or is planning on putting into place, is any juror, they will cut a check for anyone that has sat on the jury. So everyone will be paid. And that's the main reason for the increase. However, it's an estimate. You know, she doesn't have any figures, historical figures, to base that number on.
Mr. Chairman, what I've found in all these years practicing law is that about 90% of the cases that are set for trial get settled, that never go to trial. Now, there's a little difference there. There's a capital murder case here. Usually, somebody pleads guilty to that if they knock off the death penalty, which they're not going to get anyway in this, and a deal can be made. So if she had to try all those cases, she would need this money. But it's rare that more than about 10% of these cases would even be tried. I guess there could be a weird year, but not typically. But I don't think they've tried a capital case here since before Tracy was born.
So the question I've had to Tracy though is if she's planning on mailing all this out to juries and whatnot, she doesn't have any postage increase in that. Does that mean?
Well, that is correct. So that would probably be a hit to my postage line.
Yours?
Yes, because I take care of all the postage for all the departments. It's in my budget. So I can email her if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, and ask her if she's thought of how much increased postage that would cost, if you'd like me to do that.
Okay.
And the increase on the jury, she should be able to have a historical trend of how many people would have gotten paid, just didn't come in and get paid.
Well, that's kind of what she indicated that she was going
So
off of.
that's why I'm looking
Yeah.
at the number for that, it's just the postage increase for you.
But she also notes in here that the figure is low, as they could have 4 trials scheduled during 1 week, so.
That would be rare.
I think we'll probably leave it in there for right now and just see, since this is a new system. And nobody really has a solid number for what we're going to be looking at and can't really project that.
Well, you can look at the number of jury trials tried over the last 10 years, and it'll be just like I told you. She had 7 jury trials last year, total. Now, she's had as many as 15. That was an unusual year.
Right, and that's what I was saying, you should be able to trend that pretty easy. You know what you got for.
I'd give her 50 grand extra, maybe.
Not looking at what you actually paid out and what you should pay out.
Yeah, I hate to say it, and it's a heck of a jump from 65,000, but she did say that, there was this very common occurrence where people wouldn't, come in and, sign up and get the check.
Yeah, that is.
So I think this might be pretty well dialed in. She says it could be even more, but I do agree, Dallas, that trials get resolved all the time. But I'd have to defer to the clerk on this.
My guess is 50 would cover it, unless there was some craziness in the courthouse, because people, the defense lawyers and the plaintiff's lawyers don't want to wait 2 and 3 years for a trial, so they settle the cases. And I'd like to thank the taxpayers who don't come down and collect their jury fee. I would say under Peter, under her line of public defender, do you see that? On the second page of her report. It says this line is for the criminals that need publicly defended. Should say that should read alleged criminals.
The rest of it is fairly flat. So, that was
Anybody else? Okay, I guess we're good with that, except for we want to find out on the postage.
So, Mr. Chairman, the decision is the jury expense will be at 300,000?
Yep. Everybody good with that?
No, but
No? Okay.
it's where we're at.
I want to bet somebody dinner on that it doesn't exceed 50,000. I want a free dinner.
But they're mailing the checks out now, right? Instead of people coming down and picking them up? Yeah, so the cost, I'll take that dinner, because,
You're on.
yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, if we could move past the commissioners and move to community action? Is that your next one after the commissioner?
County roads,
After that, after county roads
Equipment.
and after equipment and after
Community.
projects and grants?
projects, grants, community action.
Okay. Because all of those ones, projects and grants, equipment, all that are in the commissioner's line, so if we
Okay.
could move past that, that'd be great.
And go straight to community action.
Please. Mr. Chairman, on community action, on her request summary, you will notice that the FY '24 1 cent request is at 55,000. With 1 cent 17 approval, the community action was given 88,700 in fiscal '24. So that has been approved previously for the 1 cent cycle. But other than that, that's the only change that I have noted.
So are you saying that that was already approved, so that 55 would come out of there then, or?
The 55 is going to be notated in the 1 cent, which is the last page in your book. And that number that I have put in there is the 88,700. So the number in front of you is in your 33 general accounts under community action, and then the 1 cent funding is in the 1 cent funding at the very back of your book.
Okay.
So how does it look to you, Tracy? That,
As far as community action,
yeah,
I would say there's no changes other than the 1 cent change that was approved during the 1 cent 17 approval in October of 2022.
Any questions with this one? Okay,
Is coroner your next one?
corner is next one.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, according to my notes, Mr. Whips has a temporary part-time position added into that salary line. That's the first change that I've noted. And according to the narrative, it looks like that amount would be $15,000. The total cost of that position would be no more than $15,000.
is that the only raise?
That's the only increase to his salary. Now, you will note is an increase to the salary line. However, again, that is due to the wage adjustment study that we had in November and the raises that were given in July as well. But that is the only additional salary adjustment. And then in addition to that, in the equipment line in 39, he asked for cameras and a portable radios, which is detailed in the last page of his narrative for a total of $16,911.
So during the discussion, he is burning through his PPE, his field supplies. You need to increase that. Maybe up to 9. But if you look at, also if you look at, that, they're exceeded 22, 27 out, so I think we should just massage that.
Mhm.
Jim, could you turn on your microphone? I can't quite hear everything you say. Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
So what I was saying was, during his presentation, he is burning through PPE and field supply. So we could increase that, but he's never, if you go back and look backwards, his forensic line item, he's never exceeded 22 with that, but he's asking for 27, so I think we can balance those two out and
Yep.
make it, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, to date, on his forensic lab, he has expended $25,886.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So maybe he is spot on with that one.
And currently, he is, has overexpended his field supply line, and I did email him this morning to see if maybe, there was a posting error on our end or why that line has been expended, but if he's burning through that PPE, then I guess that would explain it.
What's he at with the PPE right now?
He's currently at $12,539 being expended, and that's, not including any of the invoices or vouchers that you have in front of you, so I'm
Right.
not sure if there was more to come. The deadline was Friday to submit invoices, so we have some that have not been entered, but it's
So
pretty
maybe we
up-to-date.
leave the lab at where it's at and just increase the field supply by 4,000 or so. They said give him some cushion. Because I don't see people or his guys not needing it anytime soon, probably.
Tracy, what'd you say the field supplies currently are?
He has expended $12,539,
So he's double, almost.
Yep.
correct.
Did he say whether there's more or less people dying each year? I don't know if he addressed that or not. Everybody else addressed.
That's kind of a case-by-case basis.
We're gonna have 1,000 more people die this year, I didn't hear anything like that.
Mr. Chairman, Coroner Whips also said that this line also handles equipment maintenance, so maybe that's part of the, I'm not quite sure. I do have an email out to him, but. Okay, I got an answer. He says, equipment versus, and maintenance is the reason for the increase. Everything went to hell at once, quote,
Well,
unquote.
he did say that he had a lot of old equipment.
So what do we need to raise that field equipment?
Well, and that's
Supplies up.
why, if you notice, he added 3,000 into the repair and maintenance this year where it's been zeros
Yeah,
Right.
that's the separation that he'd said.
that he's created for this upcoming,
Right,
where
but
he
the-
hasn't had it.
But
But
this,
so keeping that in mind, that's why I was thinking if we increase that up to maybe 10 for the PPE field supplies, and that'd help him get back established, because he's been using up extras, the stuff that they had saved up that she had bought over the years that they had warehoused.
I don't have any problem with raising field supplies up to 10. I don't have any problem with that at all, so.
I think he's pretty conservative. I'd just
He
give him
is,
what he
yeah.
wants. He's staying pretty much in line with everything from last year, other than salaries.
Oh.
6,400.
Mhm.
So,
He's expended 12.5 already.
yeah. But
Why is he asking for 10?
flip back to your spreadsheet. See if we can explain that one.
Because he just said everything with
So
the
he
hill.
just added 3,000 into his line item for repair and maintenance where he hasn't had it before it's all been handled through field. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket now. So the 12. So he's breaking it out this time for that, put his repair and maintenance here and his field supplies here, but he's burning through his PPE and field supplies faster than what he's got down here. He had a,
Well, he didn't ask for it.
no, but there was a huge, he hasn't expended it because there was a huge supply, yeah, that the prior corner bought.
Well, and that may be something we need to even bump a little bit higher, but I don't have any problem with it being at 10 right now, since we got the 3 in the other location, and I'm not talking a whole lot higher, but another 1,000 or so may be something that's needed, depending on what coroner's projections are.
Or we can leave it where it's at and he can come back. Either or.
Are you saying leave it at 10 or leave it at 6,400?
Well, either way, put it at 10 so he can replace, or leave it at 6 and when he burns through it, then he'll just need to come back to us and
I'd
We'll have
feel
to
more
make
comfortable
amendment.
putting it up to 10 instead of the 6,400. Just because everything's going up and he's already used a lot of his supplies, so.
Well, he isn't asking for 10, is he?
No.
I don't think that, I don't like the idea of us raising it. I think he knows more about it than we do. I think we should give him what he asked for, and if he needs more, he knows to come back. But you don't want to set a precedent there, Dave, I don't think.
Although to Dave's point, didn't he go over last fiscal?
he's already at 12.
Yeah.
And if you add the 3,000 with the 6,000, that's only 9.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you go back to 21-22 expended, he was at 8,300 and he'd still ask for the 64. So obviously the price of doing business is going up.
That's basically what I was getting at, and that's not a huge adjustment.
Can you ask him why he didn't raise that?
Well, historically, it's been at 64.
Yeah.
If you look at your sheet, at your ledger, and consistently, other than in 22, he blew through it.
I'm just curious if that's all true, which apparently it is, why didn't he ask for more? I'm interested in knowing that, if we could get that quick answer.
I'll see how quickly he responds.
Well, I would also say the business that he's in, Dallas, you can't,
No, I understand
you
that.
can't judge.
No, I
You know,
understand that. I'm just
next
curi-
year you might have he might expend nothing. Nobody
Right.
may
But
die.
he's a better judge at it than we are.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put a dinner on it or anything, but.
No.
I'm just saying overall, Mr. Chairman, that he's a better judge at it than we are.
Sure. Tracy, if he goes 6,400 and goes over in a situation like we are now, I mean, we just do an adjustment to it, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so.
So is it safe to say we're going to leave it, or what's the pleasure of the commission?
I think we just ought to give people what they ask for. If we have, or find out if they made a mistake. And if they did, we can adjust it, and if they need more later, we can adjust it, but I don't think we should go over what anybody asks us for personally, unless we do contact them and they say it's a mistake. Because they obviously thought about it in more detail than we have. I don't know why he did what he did, but.
Well, the only thing I would say is, didn't he just comment to you that everything just kind of blew up at the last minute here? So, again, he's in a
No,
business
I don't
that-
dispute that.
Yeah.
I just want to hear it from him.
Well, you did, because that was an email that he sent to
On
the
the
clerk.
6,400?
On the cost.
On the cost
On
of
the
it, that's
cost of
what he
that,
just
that's
said,
what he was
everything
saying,
just
so-
blew up at the last minute,
And
so.
that's something you can't,
Well, if he wants to, my only thought is I'm not against that. I would just like to hear it out of his lips, particularly about that, as I would anybody who, they're asking for 50 and we want to give them 100. I'd like to know.
But that's what I'm saying, Dallas, she literally just got an email from him explaining the overage on that.
Okay. That's from last year, right?
No.
This year.
This
This
year,
year.
right now,
This year.
currently, 12,500, and he's
these
got
requests were
6,400
put
in there.
in March.
Yeah,
So,
I hear what you're saying. I don't
Chairman.
have any objection
Mr.
to
Chairman?
anything you do there.
Peter? Peter?
I think we're gonna be okay on this one, either way. He asked for it, I like, to stick with that, but our door is open, at any time if he needs more. That's kind of where I'm coming down, but it's only a couple $1,000, so I think we should just make a decision and move on.
Everybody good with leaving it where it's at? And if he needs it, he'll come back? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the corner?
Okay,
Okay.
next in your book, please.
County Attorney?
Mr. Chairman,
Peter?
have we received any revisions in the last week or so?
Of what?
No.
Okay.
Oh, of the budget?
So obviously, Mr. Chairman, this is, the increase in the salary line is due to, fully staffed crew. And then there's some things that were removed from the county attorney's line or department, moved to HR per the request of the commissioners. So there's really nothing in my notes that is a substantial difference.
I didn't hear your final statement, Madam Clerk.
There's nothing in my notes that's a substantial difference. However, I do on contract labor. She had put 20,000, the interim county attorney had put 20,000 in that line item. Historically, it's been zero. So my thought is that is a duplicate in the commissioner's general accounts. So I'm not real sure what that 20,000 was put in this line item for.
I would wonder if it isn't where she might have to hire an attorney to represent the assessor. That may be taken care of in her mind. I don't know that, but
So, right, so the contract attorney was referencing basically in case we needed to have Title 25 or whatever retaken over back, correct? Wasn't that the discussion?
According to her narrative, it's non-litigation legal expenses. Again, we have never
Right,
put,
Title 25 and whatnot.
we have never put any money in that line. We have a professional services line in the commissioner's general account. So I am of the assumption or the feeling that it's a duplication, only because historically, there's nothing been put in that line.
And this
Jim?
is one of those things where we can
Who-
come back and if we need it, we can do it, but. it'd be
Jim,
a good cut.
who paid the attorney's fees on the young lady that came up here from Cheyenne that we hired? Her bill was 22,000 or something like that.
the county did. That came out of the attorneys.
That came out of the county attorneys. Well, I'm
Yes.
wondering if this is designed, Tracy, to take care of that when they have to hire somebody to come in.
Actually, in further looking at this, it's non-litigation legal expenses due to the legal department being short-staffed. So perhaps that is not needed now that they have a full crew.
Maybe.
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 Mr. Chairman, my firm, before I was county commissioner, did some easements for county attorney's office. I considered the county attorney my supervisor, if not employer, and took my direction from county attorney and working with, I think on that one, Road and Bridge a little bit. It was minor stuff. I think we might want some item in here, and I think that maybe we take it out of the commissioner professional services item, because I know I didn't deal with commissioners directly. So I don't mind seeing it in here. I don't know about $20,000. I also don't know if we're in a state of flux still in some of these departments, so maybe it's not a bad idea this fiscal year to have 10 and 20 in that.
Mr. Chairman, like Tracy was saying, the clerk was saying, was that historically that's been handled through the professional services line, not this one. But, so I don't know if we want to adjust the professional services one down as well and increase this one, or however you want to do it, but.
Mr. Chairman, in addition, and I misspoke, Commissioner Milne, that's litigation legal expenses line in the Commissioner's 33 general accounts. However, Charmaine did request $30,000 to be put into that line item as well.
So another question, Jim. Who paid the lawyer that we hired, Ms. Stadelli? Who paid her to review those documents a while back? Remember?
The
Was she-
county's the one that paid it.
Was she with a
You know
firm?
what I'm talking about, don't you,
Was she
Peter?
with a firm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be
Shoot.
Wellborn, Sullivan, or Crowley
Yeah.
Fleck.
Which one?
Crowley Fleck.
Crowley Fleck?
Yeah.
That was the one done on the chairman's request. If that enlightens everybody to what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we just don't know the answer to your question. Could be HR, could be commissioners, should be commissioners.
The $2,000?
Yeah, that's about right.
I'm just wondering if it should have come out of the county.
That was professional services for the Commissioners.
It wouldn't be out of the county attorney's budget then?
It wasn't.
Should it be?
No.
No? Okay. Just curious.
So between all the different line items, I think we've got room to cut wherever you want to go, but it looks like there's some duplication being created there.
And the only reason, Mr. Chairman, why I feel that way is because, again, historically, there's nothing been in that account line
In the contract labor.
for the county attorney's office, correct? But that doesn't mean that, things have changed.
I want to talk to somebody about this too. Yeah.
We're talking about the contract labor. It's historically been zero. We've got 20,000 in there now. Or we want to keep something in there, or
I am.
we're dialing it down?
I'd like to have 10 in it. That gives flexibility on little projects. Maybe there's some expertise in a particular area. County attorney can just deal with it, and we don't have to hire attorneys in a particular area unless it's for our purposes. And then I'd be fine with reducing 10,000 from the
Litigation.
professional services over on our side, but I don't have a strong feeling about that.
That may be necessary with respect to the potential of the issue with what the assessor wants extra money for legal fees. Maybe just as well to leave it alone.
Stepped out. you?
No, I heard.
Okay, you care one way or another on the contract labor for this?
No, I don't
Take it from 20 to 10?
No, that's fine. Michelle's listening to us. You can hear her all the way down.
So, Mr. Chairman, can that money be used by the county attorney if they had to hire someone to come in to deal with the assessor's issues with this assessment she's made?
That's why the assessors got their own line on it.
Yeah, I don't see it as
There's 40,000 in the assessors on own line.
yeah, that's okay, thank you.
So she already has the money?
Yes.
She bumped.
So then what would this money actually then be used for, Peter, that they're wanting, this 20,000 that they want? What would that, give me just an example of what that would be used for?
If Road and Bridge needs an easement to be drafted, the county attorney's office is bottlenecked, bogged down, doesn't have time to do it or the expertise to do it, the attorney could theoretically do it for $1,500 in.
So she would hire that attorney and,
She would hire that attorney, and we commissioners probably wouldn't care.
yeah, okay, thank you.
You bet.
Madam Clerk, on the litigation and legal expenses at that 30,000, did you say that was increased or has that always been?
In the Commissioner's general accounts,
The commission-controlled accounts, yeah.
it was increased, excuse me, in 22-23 to 65,000 is what was approved in 22-23, but I think that was because of BOE hearings and all that. So historically, it looks like request has been 50, but due to circumstances, that account line has been all over the board. So it's kind of hard to give a real accurate historical representation of it.
Okay.
Ms. Reed did put 30,000 in for the request this current fiscal that we're working on.
Okay. So the only change I'm seeing right now on this is contract labor line item from 10,000, or from 20,000 down to 10,000. Any other changes?
Well, I don't know if there's some sort of change in employment, if that budget's accurate then, if something should happen.
I think the positions, though, Mr. Chairman, I think the positions ought to be budgeted for, and it'd be unwise to
Make a decision right now that would impact that up or down. So,
Yeah, the numbers may end up different.
I'm good
at
with
the
that.
end of the
I'm
year.
good with that.
Okay, so the only change I'm seeing right now is that contract labor change from 20 to 10.
Thank you.
Anything else on this one? Okay.
Who's
We have
next?
the county clerk.
Oh, boy.
Can't we just skip this one?
Please, great. So in the county clerk budget, nothing huge to note other than the market study continuum, as me and my colleagues have been calling it. Again, that is not an increase to my salary line. Also, the elections is reduced due to not having an election. And then if you get to the 04 department clerk mail and phone services, we probably need to discuss that. Unless you have any questions in admin or elections.
What do we go to?
So currently, as it stands, my postage line has went over, excuse me, by $47,000. I'm at, currently, actual is 217,334. So, I did increase that request, which I don't think, according to the numbers I'm looking at, is too far reached.
Mr. Chairman. Tracy, between, you're handling the postage for the assessor, for the BOE stuff, correct?
Correct.
And so between that increase probably for this year, plus the jurors' mailings, you think you're sufficient there?
Perhaps, looking at today's numbers, I'm a little hesitant. Jill said that she feels it would be about a $4,000 postage hit on the jury situation. Not quite sure of that number, so I could leave it and we could see how it goes.
Where are you at right now?
217,334. So that's,
So you blew the budget, this year's budget,
yeah,
just
we'll be.
right out of the water.
We'll be doing a transfer, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Again, that one's hard. Also, elections plays a big role into that. So for this current fiscal, we might be okay, but then going into the next fiscal, I might need to increase that because of elections.
Sounds good.
And the only other increase, well, it's actually a decrease to the requested budget, but we have asked, or Eileen has asked for new phones in that telephone equipment and maintenance line. However, it is a decrease from this current fiscal's approved. And then as far as equipment, I did ask for chairs.
Well, there's a bunch of chairs outside there. Ain't that-
200 isn't bad.
Yeah, I saw that. So I needed, we went and did an inventory, Cindy went and did an inventory of my chairs. I had probably half of them that were in dire need of replacement. So I reached out to Danielle and I was able to utilize risk management funds for those because I did order ergonomical correct chairs. So I would say probably the remainder that I'm asking for, I'm not sure the need is dire. However, my chairs are 7, 8, 9 years old, something like that, which they do tend to break down. They just don't make them like they used to, but that is the reason for the request. Or I can go dig through the trailer out there and find 10 good ones, whichever you prefer.
I hope we approve the budget.
Anybody got any questions? Teachers pondering the chairs.
No, I appreciate the clerk's information. I appreciate the clerk getting, having an alternative route for a couple of these chairs. The clerk says that she needs them, so I'm okay with this.
The only concern I have again is the postage coming from all these mailings now through the courts, but
She gave me a figure of $4,000. So I guess I'm not sure
Okay.
on the postage, to be honest. It's only, it only goes up. It's up to the pleasure of the commissioners. I did kind of, like I said, when I figured this, I did take the BOAs into account, but I did not the jury situation.
okay.
You got any ideas on how many for the BOE this year?
They're going through everything right now, and they'll have a better idea next week. So,
Doesn't help us this week. I'd say leave it as you put it, because you're at what, 219 or something like that right now?
217.
217. So, I mean, that's,
They'd put it at 221 with her 4,000.
yeah, so.
I'm comfortable, and again, if I
Yeah.
need to come back, I certainly can. I know where you live, so.
I'd leave it as requested right now and go from there, knowing that we're going to have to increase it for next fiscal, though. Probably, unless there's no BOEs, what,
For elections.
and elections.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Nicolason, I appreciate the comment regarding the chairs, because according to Mr. Popolick, they are now at the dump, so I would rather not go dumpster diving at the dump, so I appreciate that consideration.
That was
Madam
Chairman
Clerk,
Creel's
can you
idea.
go get multiple bids for items?
You never knew where that was gonna go, did you, when you made the comment?
Couple $1,000.
For the chairs, Mr. Chairman, I did not.
No, but will you, before you pull the trigger on these, will you, just to make sure that you've got a competitive bid?
Probably not, to be perfectly honest. He brought several chairs over. We tested out, different samples. And then since they were ergonomically correct, meeting the risk management guidelines, the answer is no, I will not, unless you would like me to, Mr. Chairman.
Tracy, I have to admit, I remember my secretary came in and wanted a new chair. And I said, well, what's wrong with that one? She said, well, I've had it for 20 years. Come in and take a look. So I said, well, why didn't you just get one a lot earlier? Because those chairs do wear out.
Yeah, they do.
And your ladies, they need good chairs down there.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, anything else on this one? Okay. Move on to development.
So, Mr. Chairman, the only thing that I have to note in particular from the admin, away from the admin budget, is the equipment request, obviously, the vehicles that were discussed. I don't have any particular notes in his administration portion of it, the 37 account, but I'm not sure if the commissioners have something to add to that.
I just think that number's too high for the equipment, for two vehicles.
And, Mr. Chairman, we do have the equipment all compiled under the commissioner's line, so if you'd like to address it all as we go, that's fine, or if you would like to discuss it now, whatever, however you choose to proceed.
I'd prefer hitting this one now, if possible, just because we did discuss this one as far as their request was for two vehicles, all in 1 year. I'd rather see it personally if we go with that one new vehicle, if we're going to go new, and then if we can they can borrow or steal one from, say, the SO or county or whoever. If they need an extra one, that's great, but I'd rather spread them out rather than all at once. That way, when we go to replace them again, we're not replacing two all at once again, but replacing, you cycle them. You don't want to have everything come due all at once.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Milne. In terms of rotation, I think I agree with some of the other commissioners in terms of the price. I don't agree with Commissioner Milne in the stealing from the sheriff's office. I think he should beg or borrow, but not steal from the sheriff's. But maybe there's an opportunity there. I'm also more comfortable with the number of 50 or 55,000 for one truck. And if it's a gently used 1-year-old truck or a base model F-150, I think that can get the job done. And if it just absolutely can't, then I would be happy to visit with the department about bumping it up a little bit. But I think that I was uncomfortable with the oral report on some of the departments, on some of the asks for vehicles and such, and this is one of those. So my thought is 50 or 55, one truck this year, and we can talk later, or next year.
Mr. Chairman, I did check out the trucks. You can get a Dodge with set up the way they want for $52,000. The Ford F-150s might be a little more, but there's a guy out there that can get trucks. I just don't think we should buy any new trucks this year. I think we should squeeze all we can out of these trucks. I've had a Ford F-150, and when I turned it over to my sons, it had 150 on it, and they both drove it through their different turns, and they weren't easy on a truck. And so I don't know that we need any new trucks this year, especially new ones. I think the current trucks, just from what I could see of them, they run, they don't have any problem that I've been advised of. So, plus I don't think the taxpayers want to see people driving brand new trucks this year anyway, if they're not necessary.
The only thing I would add to any of that is that the one Ford F-150 is at 116,000 essential miles right now. You do need to have a rotation schedule, because if you sit on top of these things and then you end up replacing more than one at a time, I'd rather do them, just like Peter was saying, once a year. Also, that Tahoe nobody's driving that. And that vehicle is at 86,000 right now, so would obviously like to see that thing traded off, but I'm good in doing one vehicle this year and reducing that fleet by that Tahoe, which will obviously reduce the cost a little bit on whatever we replace it with.
Mr. Chairman, for clarification, or where are you at on the amount for that one vehicle?
I'd say the 50 to 55,000, but obviously there's a trade in there. You'd save some money on it, but I would say that I'm good with that 50 to 55.
Generally, we don't trade in, we auction them off.
When's the last time we did an auction?
Last year.
Okay.
They're
It-
taking pictures.
mine does it every year.
September, I think we do them
Yeah.
typically in September.
All right. Fair enough.
So
50,
what,
55,000 is what I'm good with. Is everybody good with that amount
That's fine.
for one?
Are we set that you have to get a Ford F-150, or
No.
No,
because,
no, it's just a vehicle.
yeah,
And I will say again, I would prefer that we look at whatever plan Mike had in place, and if he was going through the state to get a lower cost on buying multiple vehicles, I'd rather go that route, whatever we need to do to get that cost down. It only makes sense to buy them in bulk if we're buying multiple.
so who is it then who actually goes out and negotiates the deal and buys the truck?
It depends on who, the department, generally the elected. They can go, so like the sheriff's office, they've got certain requirements, so
But our,
they go do their own. Mike has been in the past, been able to go through and do some cost savings, and go through the state. There's, depending on need, availability, that's part of the other part, is recent past, his availability has just been horrible.
But who would do it in this particular instance?
I think my preference would be that they would go and work with Mike and try to find some cost savings there.
I would agree with that. Brett Osborne, he's the guy that says he can do a pretty good job on giving us a price. He's pretty well known. He worked for Griner. I don't know who he's working for now, but I asked him that he could get the Dodge for 52. I don't know. He didn't give me a price on the Ford F-150.
The only other things I see on this are increase in training, travel expenses, and memberships. Each one of those went up like $4,500 there. And then the cleanup fund, has it always been at 100,000?
Yes, and Mr. Chairman, that was a 1 cent project, which we did not approve for 1 cent 17, but I thought we could have that discussion when we tackle the 1 cent.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yep. All right, are there any other questions under development?
Mr. Chairman, what triggers my mind when people ask for, quite a bit of money to go get training? I don't know that we have employment contracts with people. But I know I've represented employers that have sent people out to be trained, and it's cost them a lot of money, $7,500, $6,500, whatever it is. They get the training and they go get another job, and we can't get the money back. So we might want to consider, depends on how much money you're pouring into training in any one of our areas, that if it's more than usual, that maybe we should have some agreement that they get the training, and they've got to stay here for at least a little while, anyway.
That does happen. I can tell you with Road and Bridge, I just had that discussion with Mike, and
Yeah, he says he trains them and they go get another job. And it's whatever it costs to learn how to drive a semi.
okay, nothing else under development. We'll move on to drug court.
Again, Mr. Chairman, drug court's a pass-through.
Okay. Next, we have Fair Board.
Mr. Chairman, a couple things. This Helen Wolf project, I didn't see on here, she's the lady that is having the horse and everything, and they're gonna put it in front of the industrial building. They told me they're gonna need 21.5 to do that project, and I don't know that it's included in there.
It is not, Mr. Chairman, because I was brought the proposal after the books were complete, but it is right here.
Is it 21.5?
Yes.
So I would like to see that approved. The other thing is the salary increases. I've had people from the Fair Board ask me about that, and
One more.
they point out that some of these people haven't had a raise in several years, and that they did this research on what people make because they're a board. It didn't go through Danielle, I guess. But I think there was some discussion about at least that they would run it by her, and I don't know whether that's happened or not. Maybe somebody else knows. But Jim, it was Peter Nicolason who called me and mentioned it, and then, of course, the conversations we had here at the meeting that night, they were saying that Tom had worked there 40 years and hasn't had a raise in I don't know how many years.
So the wage adjustment, or the market analysis that was done for fairgrounds was done not through the county ourselves, but by using other fair boards or fair managers and crews around the area, through that association. So that's where they came up with their numbers on that. I don't know if Danielle has since talked to Tom or not. Reference the numbers. But like they said, that's the Rocky Mountain region area. Numbers for a wage survey. When we initially did the wage increase across the board, since they were not included, they didn't get it through the county, so they utilized some of their other funds. Being a statutory board, they used some of their other funds and moved them around so that they could give their people increases rather than lose them. There is a replacement position in this, which also shows for the increase. So there's that as well, plus it's behind the scenes increase. So I guess where are you at with this?
Who are you asking that to?
Well, you asked me.
Well, I think that what Pete told me is that they would like to see a $30,000 raise for Tom, and I don't know how, I think my understanding was he hasn't had a raise in 7 or 8 years, and these guys are making $150,000 a year in this area, and they sure don't want to lose him, and I wouldn't want to lose a 40-year guy, but I don't know enough about the Fair Board and how they run this, although they presented this to us. I don't know if they've ever presented this way to you guys before, but they're county employees basically, and I think they should be brought up to market just like everybody else. That's my own general statement.
So then you'd be in favor of their proposal?
I would be.
Madam Clerk, what I think I would like to do is we'll reach out and see if HR has been able to talk to them. And then, so let's circle back to this one.
Okay.
Yeah, they were asked to do that, and so I don't know whether they have or not.
Mr. Chairman, I did provide HR with the worksheet that they presented in their budget, so she's probably working on that. Also, then following suit, if we could go to the equipment line, 39 account, which is, it's going to be under the fairgrounds, but it's going to be the worksheet behind the initial one.
Page 13.
If you stay in the fairground tab, Mr. Chairman. In the second Excel spreadsheet, and then page 13 of the big, long narrative behind that.
Tracy, where did they put in that request for building the new restrooms out there that they claim are horrible, which they are?
In this 39 account, which is on page 13 of their legal size narrative.
Yeah.
It's
Is
in
that
the-
building and structures? Or,
Yes, I believe so. If you look
Yes.
down, yes.
I know, my notes, Mr. Chairman, indicate that the bathrooms were a priority over the asphalt, but that the estimate was a ballpark, not bid or quote. You know, I just want to see those improvements done. I just don't have a great level of comfort with the estimated cost for the bathroom repair and wondering about deferring some of the asphalt to another fiscal year.
And Mr. Chairman, in 1 cent 17, there is, in fiscal '25, there's 500 approved for asphalt, and in fiscal '26, there's 300 approved for asphalt. But when I asked the question during Mr. Jones's budget hearing, he felt that this request in his 39 account also was in addition to his 1 cent and was needed as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
yeah, he did say that.
And just for reference also, this current fiscal, he was given 300,000 for asphalt and 1 cent reserve, which has been expended.
Peter, my only thought is that that's a, kind of like a movie theater. You really want it to attract people. You want it to be as bright and shiny as you can get it. And if we can afford it, I would like to see them get the money for all of that and get this project done and have the best fairgrounds we can afford as soon as we can get it done. That's just my general thinking.
Commissioner, were you talking about the asphalt and the bathrooms?
Right.
So for the, Madam Clerk, can you help me with the math again on asphalt? We've got 500 for fiscal year '25 on 1 cent 17, 300 fiscal year '26 on 17, and then another 300 is what I heard from the presentation.
That he's already expended.
So he's in addition, he's expended 300 this current fiscal. And I believe he's asking for an additional 300 to all of those others.
Yeah, I mean.
1.1.
So just, I'm gonna say that, Commissioner Laird, I agree you wanna dress things up and make it a showcase. But I don't know if the people who are going to the fair, which, and I'm in that group, I really care that much about asphalt. I'm there for different reasons, and I don't really need it to be showy. Now, I feel different about the bathrooms. I've been in those bathrooms. But I'm not comfortable with all the asphalt requests here. The other thing is, I don't know if we're being great stewards of the taxpayers' money if we're saying, here's 250,000 for a ballpark estimate on bathrooms. Now, I can't say, well, it should be 200 or 150. I can't say that, but I would sure like, when we're talking six figures, for example, you know, we saw I've written this down. We've seen the coroner, the clerk, we've seen the assessor. They've had bids for this stuff, desks, chairs, and I think it should be dialed in a little bit more.
I agree with
And
that.
in future years, I think we should have that expectation. Because I'm a little bit frustrated because it's like, well, maybe it's 350,000, but if it's ballpark, boy,
Yeah.
that's tough. So I don't know what to do. I want to fund bathrooms for sure.
I don't know the amount.
I feel like we're really throwing some money in pavement already out there. So anyway, those are just some concerns I have on this as a bigger picture, but also as the Fair Board stuff.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. On the other hand, there are people who drive cars and don't have big trucks and stuff, and they like to park on nicely paved areas. So,
That's not for that.
oh, it isn't? What's it for?
It's for in front of the grandstands and that whole area where they put the carnival. It's in front of it's the driveway through the area.
So it's people walking on it, so you have little
Yeah, it's
kids
in
and
front of-
everything?
they just did from the street in past the industrial building. They need to go from the grandstand west to the outer drive again, and then they need to do the backside. That's not been touched yet at all.
So that would not only be a beautification process, but it would make it easier for people to walk on?
Right, and they've got to redo some of that every so often because they put, as the carnival comes through, they put holes in that, and they got to reseal it, and they got to redo everything. And
I knew one year it was pretty beat up, and I thought that was kind of strange, but, you know, that's my thought, Mr. Nicolason, is that it's something, if I didn't realize it was something the public could be walking on. I can understand some vehicles that don't care what they park on, but in terms of if this is for the people to walk on and for it to be safe and what have you and look good, boy, I'd sure like to see it done. But here's the part I really agree with you on. I don't like guessing, and I don't like them guessing and telling me what they think something may cost. But I don't want to hold them up on the deal. The other thing that I think is a mistake is where people say they want like these trucks, but then we say how much we'll allow money for, because then that's made public. And anybody that is a salesman will know exactly what they can get out of their truck because of some number we've said. So I would like to be able to have a more balanced negotiation with them. But in this case, I'm sure we can figure out a way to approve this subject to the bids and us approving the bids, just like when we get bills in here, we have to approve them. So I don't know if that can be done, Madam Clerk, or not, but I'd sure like to see that fairgrounds get a good shoe shine.
So the one thing I'll add to this is that the asphalt, you have 500,000 in 25, 300,000 in 26. This project's not going to get done overnight. It's a process over the next few years. And to say that he thinks he needs 300,000 to finish that project, I'd assume just push it out and utilize the money that we've already earmarked for that to get it done, and then let's see what the final cost is to finish that project up. And I agree as far as those bathrooms go, and I agree with what Peter's saying. It's unfortunate that we're getting ballparks and nobody actually has taken the time to get bids put together, because it'd be a whole lot easier for all of us to be able to put a dollar figure on something if we knew that this is the range that it's going to be in. So I don't know the answer for the bathroom thing, but I personally think that 300,000 right now for asphalt should be put off and utilize that money that's already set aside, and then let's rebid the final portion of that project in, I guess it'd be 26.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with that. I wonder, about being arbitrary. I wonder about knocking the 250 down to 225 and say, see what you can get done, come talk to us if it's a big problem, but maybe we will help educate that we just have to have a greater level of confidence in this stuff. And I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there.
Madam Clerk, what's our time frame? I mean, we're talking about needing bids to be able to make an informed decision. What's our time frame? I mean, do we still have time that we can get a hold of them and say, get somebody out there and give us a bid on what this project potentially is going to run us?
Yes, but it's getting narrowed down. So obviously, we approved the budget on July 17th. I do have a publication requirement that I must meet, however, it's just proposed budget. So we could realistically make some sort of changes the week of July 10th. And I'm only saying that week because of the scheduling conflict that I have the week of July 3rd. But realistically, yes, if he can get someone out there to get bids done.
I think we're all in the same mindset of wanting to get these bathrooms done. Let's just have Tom get somebody out there and give us a bid. At least then we have it narrowed. We might be surprised. They might come in and say it's $150,000 to do them, or we might really be surprised and it's $400,000.
Right, I just asked Tom that
Okay.
if he's got any quotes or bids that we need to see them and go forward from there. I'll have discussion a little bit better later when I can actually talk to him, not just
Okay.
text.
Mr. Chairman, just as a general statement, a lot of the county is in disrepair, and it's had Band-Aids placed on it over the years. And I've thought about that a lot, and I've seen it, and I know that it's true. And I keep thinking that we ought to consider creating a fund that we call county maintenance. And if we put $5 million in it, it's there, and it makes it, we earmark it, because it's going to be more than $5 million. I don't know what that jail's going to end up being, because we don't have any bids on it either, because they just put Band-Aids on everything, and some of that heavy equipment that we're having problems with. So I'd like us to consider that, because if some building has problems, and the fairgrounds, I don't think has had a lot of money put in it over the years. Jim, I don't know that for sure, but I have a lot of people telling me that they sure wish we would shine it up like they do down at Frontier Days. And I think we could do that. They've even made money this year. So I'd like to see something, Steve, done so that we could do all of this stuff they requested. I don't think they requested these things because they don't need them. I think they do need them. And I think it's one of these showcases that we have. It's like the front door to your house. You know, you want it to look good for people when they come in there and feel good. And it's just like the CNFR. That's a perfect example of something that's been carried on really nice. And people want to come here because we have a great facility for them, and it's well planned, and all of that kind of thing. And I think that I'd like to see that completely done for our fairgrounds personally.
So what I'm telling you, Dallas, is that I'm not saying that we don't do it, but I'm saying that we need to get a bid for a lot of these projects that come in, like the bathrooms, and then
Right.
with the asphalt, I'm not saying don't do it, because you already have 2 more years worth. You have $500,000.
And I didn't understand how that's to be.
And then you have another $300,000 the following year after that. So why would we throw $300,000 at it right now when we can get to that final phase 1 year further out? But it may come in a lot less.
What are they going to use that money they have allocated for, Jim? For
For
the
which?
asphalt?
For the asphalt, I believe that one is in front of the very south part in front of the fairgrounds, or the grandstand. So if you go grandstand and the arena, cross over, there's a big chunk right there. that all needs replaced. It didn't get replaced. We can get that replaced, and then the other 3.5 is 3 for over to the road, and then the 5 is behind the back east road, I believe, if I remember right.
So what's everybody's just general thought about creating this fund for county repair? Because it hasn't been done, but I personally believe it needs to be done. And we need to get to work on it, because we're behind the 8 ball here, gentlemen. There's just stuff that should have been done years ago that hasn't been done, and it isn't going to get any better. But we have the money, and if we set it in a certain fund, who knows how much we use, but it's something to think about.
Well, I think that's something we can have a discussion later on and
I just
potentially
throwing
put
it
money
out.
into, but, we are addressing issues that need to be taking place,
Right.
so.
So, in order to move forward, y'all good with the wages and all that? The first spreadsheet, are we good on that side?
I think wage-wise, we're waiting to hear back from HR. They're gonna have a discussion with them or
Okay,
potentially.
and then, so,
We're, HR is looking into them as
Right.
we speak.
so, now, the next set, are we good with this, or are we, again, waiting for quotes and stuff like that? Or want estimates?
As far as the bid, personally, as far as the bid for the bathroom, I would like to see a bid for the bathrooms, not just a spitball number thrown out there that we think that's what it's gonna cost. So that, I would personally like to see if he doesn't have one, to see if somebody will come give him one. and we
There's
can
an
get it.
unofficial one, that's where he came up with the number. Unofficial estimate from one of the board members,
Where did they get it from?
from Greg Pope.
He's a contractor.
Oh,
He's a
okay,
contractor.
all right, okay. Okay, well, then if it came from a contractor,
Like I said, unofficial quote estimate.
I think we ought to leave that number in there, what it is right now, and I still think we ought to get a bid for it, so we can adjust that accordingly.
Right now, they're
But-
trying to clean up for CNFR, but Tom said he's gonna work on it for that side. So, to move forward, HR for the wages, quotes for the other stuff, I'd say we just put a pin in this one for right now and move forward, right?
right.
Move on to the next one.
Yes.
Including the asphalt.
Well, can't we approve the money subject to a bid and then be done with it?
But we still have questions as far as the wages go, so
Oh,
I'd
the
rather
wages,
knock one section out.
Can't we approve that subject to final word from HR?
I think we can come back.
We can come back to
in the
it.
Next 2 days.
And where were we at with the asphalt?
Postpone it.
So, why don't I talk to Tom, when I talk to Tom, I'll get a map. We'll mark off the areas for where he had for 17, the 2 different years for 17, and then what he had 300, for this budget round, and that'll give you guys a better idea of what's going on there.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to add that 21,500 for the concrete base for the Navarro sculpture. into
Do we
this.
add that in this one or into the commissioner, do you think, Tracy, or where were you thinking
I
would be
would-
best?
Probably put it under, we can put it under this one, I guess, the equipment.
I think they thought it'd be.
I was just wondering if it went under commissioners' projects or something, one-time spending or something.
I'm not going to make a new account line for this, Mr. Chairman. I'd rather not. So I can put it in the commissioners, the 33 account, or this 39 account, whatever the pleasure of the
I
commission.
think we ought to put it under the commissioner's account, just because it's outside the normal realm.
Okay, I'll do that.
You guys need a break?
Yeah.
Okay.
How long? I'd like to go walk my dog if I got 30 minutes.
Well, I was thinking a 15-minute break, and then we can go at noon.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay,
15?
15. 10 if you can make it quick.
So Jim, I just can't get it in my mind.
Walk with me so I can heat up my coffee, please, sir.
About this pavement up there.
Mhm.
So he's got this money.
Good job.
Oh, thank you. Good job to you, too.
What's next, Health? Health is the next tab. Good job.
Thanks. Okay.
So we don't have to go through all
Except
that.
I want some input because she's hiring somebody to get out there. It's very good, that's one, it's wonderful. But she's hiring somebody who's a fucking idiot. I don't need to know that.
I'll look there, better to hire an idiot. But
We've already hired idiots around here. And one.
You didn't answer the question.
What gives you the?
Okay, so we move into health for the next one.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just basically the increase due to what's reflected, excuse me, in her narrative.
Mr. Chairman, I was pleased to hear from the executive director that they have already started to reach out to legislators about increasing the funding from the state. You know, that's been in place since 2015 and hasn't changed, but yet more of those unfunded mandates have been coming down. Our health department provides services as a regional hub to counties much farther away. I mean, it's really impressive. So I was glad to hear that. That's just a little update, not really impacting budget, but that they are trying to take steps to increasing funding from other sources.
Peter, I don't know if you can answer this question, being the liaison on that, but when you have communities like Mills that becomes a city, they go from being a town to a city, or do they get to a point that, once that happens, or is there some sort of requirement for them to put in for this also?
Mr. Chairman, I can't speak with much confidence on that. I think that they do provide services in Mills, that they have started conversations. I think that takes effect after July 1st, and that I don't know that there's a requirement, but I think there's going to be a hope, if not an expectation, that there'll be some contribution. I don't know if it'll move the needle a lot, but I think that the same arguments apply that Mills citizens are receiving those services. So that's the best I can tell you right now. I can find out if you'd like to know more. I've probably just forgotten.
It just seems that if you step up to become a first-class city, that there's some things that would come along with that. Because obviously you're using more services at that point.
I will reach out right now on that.
Anybody have anything on this?
I just want to see it get built in my lifetime.
It's a tall order, Dallas.
No. I don't know what we can do necessarily to help out with the staff reductions that she's facing concerning the state stealing employees, basically. We can keep throwing money at it, but it's not just money, but how much is where we're at. I think she's conservative in what she's asking for compared to what the market is out there for the style of employees. So what her requirements are, so
Okay.
Yeah, so am I.
Anna's always been very conservative about this, and I know she's got that same issues as everybody else as far as trying to keep nurses and stuff like that, so it'll be good if we can get the state to raise that baseline and get that so it's not such a restriction, but I don't have any problem with what her requests are, because I think they're very realistic.
Okay, I think we're good with that section. Next one is HR.
Again, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, nothing too alarming in that budget. We did move over the risk management department to be placed under HR, so that's the crux of the increases.
So I've had two of you already asked me about this, and I don't know if it's time to even have that discussion, but we did move them over under HR. I think that's something you guys, two of you at least, want to rediscuss, but at a later time.
Later date.
Okay.
So the other increase we're seeing in our narrative is the insurance premiums and stuff, and there's nothing we can do about that.
And again, Mr. Chairman, those are in commissioner-controlled accounts in 33.
Yeah,
She's also showing a 4,500 reduction in
exactly.
training and certification, so.
That's why some of that training and whatnot, it's so important that everybody is encouraged to get that done.
Anybody got anything on this then?
We're going to discuss the other later, did you say? Just as
Yeah.
a reminder, I remember that was changed because there was only one person in the county attorney's office at the time, and that was the reason we changed it over.
Yep. Yeah, we'll deal with that at a later date.
Okay?
Good with HR?
Yep.
Okay. Information technology is next.
Excuse me. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I will, since this one scares me a little bit, I'll just defer to her narrative and the notes that you took during the budget hearing. I will say that in the first page of her narrative, she speaks about a disaster recovery site, which she refers to using the tribal funds, and that was approved previously from the tribal fund money.
So the salary-wise, the increase there, I mean, that is market adjustment. Our IT staff was, one of them was way below market. And just getting them up was a pretty good lift.
That's correct.
And then software, boy, just to keep in front of all the threats and keep everything current and so we can go. That's just ridiculous, but it's pretty much what we have to do.
And then that additional $364,000 for the IT security for cyber insurance for the broker. If I remember correctly, that was based on a formula
Yeah.
of some sort of percentage of something. So that's an increase.
Yeah, and that, cyber insurance anymore is just, you can't hardly get it at all.
In that area, I think the crooks are smarter than the,
Need to start doing drone strikes on those little people and maybe they'll stop. Actually put them away.
they're working on a deal where somebody sends your computer something, they can send an impulse back that destroys their computer.
Be nice.
I think it might be out there, but it's probably just for government use.
But then they'll get a hold of it and just wipe out
And
everybody's.
then they'll wipe out with their own. It's
That
like
was the nice
taking
thing-
their
that's
gun
the
away
nice thing
from
about
them.
this.
Yeah.
Well, overall, the budget's, I think, only gone up by $100,000. I think the bottom line's right on those two columns on the green sheet. I don't know what we can do about cybersecurity and the cost of that. I
It's
got
just-
into the wrong line of work, though, I guess.
Have we not had cybersecurity in the past?
We
No,
have,
we
but it
have.
just gets more and more expensive every year.
So what kind of an increase is this 364 from what it was in the past?
The 364?
Yeah.
That's the insurance.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so.
Have we had insurance prior?
We've had insurance, but it's been different than what we're getting now.
Yeah,
And so it's having to be
that's the reason why it's got its own line item.
its own line item at this point.
So I guess my question is, though, is that 364, is that additional to what insurance we've had in the past? Or is there, being it's on its own line item, did we pay 200,000 in the past and it's gone up 164,000?
That I'm not sure, but I can reach out to Eileen with that question if you'd like.
How did we do that?
I'm just curious, because if it's a new line item, I mean, that's a huge amount to put on there, but if we've been paying 300,000, if it went up
Right.
by 64, then I get it, you know.
Mr. Chairman, my notes indicate from her presentation that 364 is not an increase. It's needed to carve it out so you can track it.
Right.
Okay.
So-
That's all I have.
If you look at the bottom line, though, from what was budgeted to last year compared to this year, it's an increase of, like Peter said,
Like 130.
14,000.
And that's all,
Oh.
and that's
Or
pretty much all in
yeah.
salaries.
And a lot of that went into salary.
Okay. I also see under the AV for the courthouse meeting rooms, small and large, that there was an additional 30,000. Doesn't look like that that was not added in. Anybody else have those notes or not? It's saying here, most AV equipment, large room can be reused. Some equipment need to be replaced to achieve desired outcomes. The pricing estimate does not include proposing the small courtroom with streaming technology, of which I have a note of $30,000 to do that. So if I read that right, that 34.8 should have been 64.8.
But, Mr. Chairman, as I recall, we weren't sure if we wanted streaming capability in there, and so I think
Correct.
that Eileen didn't feel comfortable including it because we needed to give her more direction. That's just what I remember.
Okay.
It's already wired, or they're gonna wire it, but they just weren't gonna have the equipment itself. This my understanding is that they were pulling all that stuff in there so that they could do it in the future, but it's just not, that I'm guessing, that's a vague recollection.
So do we have questions on this one then, or are we good and moving forward?
It's good with me.
Okay. Move forward on that. Next one I have is library.
Give them what they want.
As the liaison, I say you're. But let's look at it. Yeah, well,
It's $1 million
hearing the
more.
director's story about the security issue, I think was an eye-opener on that. Element of the presentation.
So, are you done?
So that's $76,000. Yes, Jim? Sir.
Yeah, I'd back Peter on that one. The security, I don't have a problem with that. We need to keep the citizens and the staff safe. The problem I do have with it is it's a city-created problem. And so I think they need to step up a little bit more, but if they won't, we will. So that would be my only comment on that. The staff salary, though, she's talking about compressions with raises. You know, I understand, but I also, at some point, you're going to be at that level. I don't know what the solution is for it. Whether it's a raise, which may screw up your structure, or if it's a bonus, or what you want to do, but at some point, you're going to be into that compression scenario.
What do you see as the problem, Jim? I'm not sure I'm tracking with.
Well,
what
she
you-
said she had 8 positions that are being compressed with raises. So basically, they're, if I understand, they're maxing out basically to the level they're supposed to be. If I'm mistaken, Peter, please interrupt, let me know. But they're to that point, and so, okay, great. You're going to be at that point unless you want to improve yourself probably at some point. It's a matter of where you want to be in life. But compression happens.
My only
I mean, it's
general
just how it
comment
is.
here is you got to pay people to keep people.
No, I'm not talking about cost of living. I'm talking compression.
Nobody likes to be compressed,
Eh.
except a golf ball.
Well, dogs during thunderstorms. But she gave some different around the state data. You know, a couple of them were high, though, for the revenue, county revenue per capita. I mean, Teton County is included in that, which is 121 almost. Converse, 123. You know, you've got these counties that can afford it, but then you've got some of the counties like Fremont that are 18.19 per capita. So if you kick out the outliers, though, it lowers that average down to 51.75. And so if you start looking at that data a little bit differently, when you kick out those outliers, you can see it looks a little different. I'm just saying.
I'm done.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, compression's a tough issue, but it's not just a tough issue for the library. And I think that retention of valuable employees has to be a top goal for any employer, including the county. And I think that we can bump this to adjust for that compression. I think that it's just kind of the cost of doing business. I don't like it, but if I were that employee that had been here a long time and the new kid is getting close to our level, and that's, I'm not gonna like it, and I might start thinking about other jobs. And so it's a $42,000 item. I can live with this one, but I hear what you're saying.
Right, and this is no different than like the fairgrounds, there's some compressions, and so I'm not arguing against, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to highlight that we need to look at it.
Mr. Chairman, if we are asking Danielle to review the fare figures, wouldn't we do the same in this scenario?
I know it wasn't part of the direct review, but I know they were talking last November, December, whatever, on some of these.
Yeah, I think you're right too, but I'm not sure if this is stemming from those conversations or if she's had newer ones.
Yeah, I think it's the same issue, though.
I think we ought to have her take a look at it. One thing I do agree with on Jim is that, with Jim on the, we really need to get the city to step up as far as security goes around all the downtown area. And, when you have when you have identified location where you have issues, and I'm not saying they have to sit there all the time, but we need to work with the city to see if we can get them to work on that and maybe move that bus stop or do some other stuff in there that possibly may reduce some of this problem.
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents on that. Is it's not just the bus stop itself, that it is a problem and has been a problem over there, but you can talk to a lot of the people that have businesses downtown too, and the same thing's happening in the alleys down there and everywhere else. So it's downtown.
It is
It is what it
downtown,
is.
and it's getting worse.
And I guess that's what I'm alluding to. It's not just one location.
So
It's,
can we get a follow-up from Danielle, whether she has talked to Lisa? She got one.
I already got a note. So besides the wages, is there anything else under library that is of concern?
When you say wages, the halftime, the half FTE is okay, that's that 31,000. But
I'm talking about the compression issues.
Great.
But as far as the staffing itself of the half FTE and then the security personnel, other than that,
Well, and she's also pre-tech, technically. She had the, staff 31,000.
Right.
That's for 3 techs. That's the compensation for the session. 42 and security 36.
How about the 31,000, that's just for half of one, 0.5 FTE.
Yeah.
3 tech positions extra, asking for a higher wage. It's one of the notes I leave.
Danielle, while we have you here, we're talking about the library right now and the compression issues they're saying they have over there. Did you ever have a opportunity or a conversation with them in reference to any of that?
I did, but it was in December, so it's been over 6 months ago. They did have compression issues, and they did have some people that were below market, especially after we looked at the job descriptions, and they did a good job of updating their job descriptions. But I haven't seen it for 6 months, so honestly, I can't speak to it because I haven't looked at it for 6 months.
I was going to ask you about, if he's done with that, I was going to ask you about the fairgrounds.
Yes, I have that right here. So, they are over on their marketing and promotions. He's suggesting a $12,000 per year increase. I would suggest a $7,000 per year increase, according to the market adjustment. And then he's got another one that's a grounds maintenance. Tracy and I are not sure if it is a full-time or part-time. At any rate, he's got them down for an increase of $1.50 per hour. They've only been here for 4 months of service, and according to our calculation, they wouldn't receive a $1.50 per hour increase, especially, they have to be here at least 1 year. And once they've been here a year, whatever the commission decides to do moving forward, that's what I would suggest that they do. They budget in for next year. So that would be $10,120. If that position's for a time at $1.50 per hour, plus the $12,000 minus $7,000 for the marketing, that would be $10,120.
If it's not full-time, because I remember him saying they were we're going to hire a part-time person, but I don't know if this is the one.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it's at in your book, but it's this person right here, and they've only been here for 4 months.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, because this is well over market, when you put 12,000
Yeah.
increase on this, that's gonna be well over. I would say she's under, so I think she needs an increase, but not 12.
What did you come up with the general manager?
Yeah, with his years of service and being a general manager, it's in line.
Yeah, because I think he wanted to get to, or one of the board members said they wanted to get him up to 131.
Can you, with your adjustments or your suggestions, can you just email us your corrections?
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
That way we
And
don't misunderstand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Somewhere along.
that's fine. And the
But
library,
if
I
he's
have
a part-
requested to see theirs.
Okay.
If he's a part-time employee, then his raise would be okay?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I added in, so when I subtracted out the 10,000, it was for a full-time. So when you take $1.50 per hour times 2,080 hours per year, so if it's a part-time position, it wouldn't be 10,000.
What would he be getting an hour?
It would be less than
What's he
that.
getting an hour right now?
He's getting $17 per hour right now, and that's what we start at. So, yeah, and the hourly isn't necessarily the issue with that portion, it's subtracting out, how much do we subtract out? If he's only a part-time employee, I subtracted out times 2,080 hours. If he's only a part-time employee, we wouldn't subtract out 10,000.
Yeah,
from this.
I do remember somebody saying they hired a part-time employee, and I'm not sure of that on him. I'll have to check that out, or Jim can check it out, I guess.
Okay. I will email you these, and then I will let you know once I see the libraries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll come back to the library on the compression issue itself. Is there anything else in the library? And I'm assuming on security on that, they've gotten a bid from War.
I think they have GPOS working there.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, they recently switched over to a new security company. They're pleased with the new security company and how they're training and being responsive. and they do have a direct quote from the new company, what it would cost to add, and that's where a number comes from.
Okay.
And that sounds like it's like within the last 30 days.
Okay. All right, anything else in the library? We'll circle back on that one on the compression issue. Next one I have is maintenance.
This one, Mr. Chairman, we usually go to building by building.
Okay, do you want to do that one now, or do you want to move on to another one and come back to maintenance this afternoon?
I think probably since we're getting closer to the lunch hour, we might better
Okay.
do that one when we come back, because it will probably take a while.
Okay. Then the next one we'll go to is parks. Or do you
That'll
want-
take a while as well, I
Okay.
believe.
Road and bridge.
That'll take a while.
How about we go to the treasurer? That shouldn't take too long.
Well, the sheriff should be easy. We're just going to give him what he wants, aren't we? Tracy, don't say a word.
So it looks like this one is wages and,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, he had put in for the market continuum, again, as we have called it, during the initial wage survey, I think there was miscommunication or misunderstanding, and he did not have his clerks, the job description of his clerks in an appropriate categories. So when him and I and the clerk of district court worked on ours, we made ours mesh more as to a clerk 1, clerk 2, clerk 3, and following the same path or formula that we had implemented in my department and the clerk of district court's department. This is where the increase came. With this, his clerks would be in an appropriate job description and level for their years of service and their job duties. So it'll help maintain the market steady as we are trying to keep the momentum flowing.
So their raises have been looked over by HR then
Yes.
and approved?
I don't know. Well, we based this on,
There she is now. Did you approve the deals for the treasurer?
she has not seen their spreadsheet. However, we were in communication with her, but she has not seen their spreadsheet, no.
So is there one required here, like everybody else?
Have you asked for one from everybody else?
I don't know. We've been asking people if they've set their raises through HR.
those are outside boards.
Oh, okay.
I can reach out to the treasurer and have him send those to Danielle if she has time to look at that.
But I think it's all right. For me, it's all right. I know he's lost 2 clerks to outside areas, and they were good, long-time clerks, and he couldn't afford to pay them.
This brings his clerks into line with basically yours and the courts and SO and everything.
Well, it brings them in line with mine and the clerk of district court. Now, for many years, we've tried to be in line with the records clerks over at the sheriff's office. However, they need certifications, they need background checks, so we kind of took them out of the matrix. and just concentrated on hours. When we were working through this, I was in contact with Danielle a lot. She has not seen their final spreadsheet, which we all worked on together, but she has not seen that final spreadsheet, to answer your question.
It's good with me.
You can reach out to the treasurer and have him give Danielle the spreadsheet.
So it aligns yours. What about this? Anybody in the assessor's office participate, or?
We did not, because, again, they have different certifications. Our clerks aren't afforded the certification piece of it. So we didn't.
So you're trying to put apples with apples?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We did it, we went off the market study numbers and years of service and, did a progression. However, our progression was a little more conservative than the progression of the wage study, that the 2.5 per year, we went to 2 per year. And we did not go over midpoint because, midpoint, you need to have 20 years of service. We didn't do any of that because one or two of their people meet that template, but
So in his narrative, he puts 3% every 3 years.
that's the sheriff. Tom's narrative has changed. Like I said, when I first did our narrative, we went off of the matrix that the sheriff's office was doing. But when I talked to Danielle, we talked that a step and grade for us will not work because we have a clerk 1, clerk 2, clerk 3 position. Right, Danielle?
Yes, and that's what I was gonna say, don't forget that when we're comparing apples to apples, the treasurer's office just had clerks straight across the board, and they ended up
Right.
going to the clerk 1, 2, and 3 to keep everything consistent.
So this narrative that he gave us should be a little different than what he
It
says.
should be different
Okay.
than, yes. It's what I presented at my budget hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, because he is showing 3 for every 3.
Yeah, and that's not
Okay.
correct. That was the initial one we worked on, and then I showed Danielle, and then we got to talking, because I always second guess myself, and she's like, that's really not appropriate, because the step and grade isn't gonna work for you, since you have a 1, 2, and 3. So she said, the market study matrix is better for us with the deputies 1, 2, and 3.
Especially with hiring in.
Hey Tracy, on, going on down on the spreadsheet on workman's comp, it actually shows a decrease from last year as far as what's requested, and we've already spent more than what he had requested.
Okay, I can look at that. He
It'd
may
be
have.
It'd be 12-70. There,
7027.
yeah.
Yeah, I can work.
70-27.
I can look
Yeah,
at that.
because it's about, that's about a $500, $600, yeah, about a $500 decrease from what he had last year.
And some of his people may have been put under an extra hazardous pay where they should not have been. They should have been under clerical. So, and those rates are quite a bit different, but I will check on that.
Sure. No, if you would, I'd appreciate it, just so we have a real number in there and as far as what the real cost is, because having that, looking at it, a couple of years ago, he only expended 1,800, but then this year, he's already expended almost 2,100.
Yeah, I'll definitely look at that.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks.
Can we just check his number then, the 5605, being it's on the same form saying that 3 and 3 on it. If 3 and 3 is wrong, I just want to make sure that his numbers are correct of the.
On which one?
So his presentation letter here, it says an increase of 50,605, but it also.
It's 31,000. Again, when we went to the different matrix, after books have been given, it's going to be a lower amount.
Okay.
Because we're not going to that step and grade that is in his exhibit. We're doing the market analysis. Number one, it didn't affect everybody. And number two, we based it on years of service instead of across the board at a fiscal year. So that reduced that request by quite a bit.
So this page would be correct, but this, that he gave it narrative is incorrect?
That is correct.
Okay. And you said the amount of increase is what?
31,000?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, contract labor is the $5,000 amount that hasn't been, it's been budgeted but hasn't been expended in quite some time. And the motor vehicle temporary forms, 700. I think those were the ones that and then equipment, 3,000.
3,000.
I think those are the ones that I talked to the treasurer about during his presentation, and he'd be okay with moving those items that hadn't been historically used. So I just throw that out there.
Mr. Chairman, on the 8632, he's expended 22,250 to date. So that is being used, just maybe not to the full extent of the request.
Right, he said in his narrative that the 8632, he is increasing by 500 because the cost was, of the forms were going up.
And that's one of those costs that you can't really project very easily.
But I agree with,
The 5,000 contract labor.
The 4,700 is what we're talking about down the motor vehicle temporary form.
right,
That's very bottom, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
but
going
the
back up to the
equipment,
contract labor for 5,000 has never been used.
yeah, and the equipment's never been used.
I mean, we hear from, anyway, never mind.
And Mr. Chairman, part of that is when you're requesting a status quo budget, it's easy just to plug a number in there as previously requested the current year. Just saying.
We'll correct that next year.
Thank you. I wish you would. That'd be great. Thanks so much. So my understanding, Mr. Chairman, correct, the contract labor line you would like to reduce, or?
Well, that's what I'm gathering from what's being said here, and it has not been used. It's 5,000 every year, and it always has zero expenditures on it, so that should be removed out of there.
Same for equipment, unless he's got chairs that he needs to buy.
They just purchased chairs not too long ago, and I believe that was with the 5,000 that he received either last fiscal or the previous fiscal. So you'd like that removed as well? The 3,000? It's 3,000 for the treasurer?
Yeah, I think so. Anybody have any heartburn over that? Okay, so we're removing those two items out of there, and then an increase of 31,000 to salary.
And the number, again, that's not an additional 31 on top of the number you have, that is included in that number.
Okay. Anything else from anybody on this one? Okay.
Can we get the sheriff done before noon?
No.
No.
Well, maybe.
I think we could.
That's 1 cent is it, and then we circle back to, we have commissioners, county roads, equipment, projects, grants,
Do you want to start in the commissioners' general accounts?
fair maintenance, road and bridge, sheriff, and parks.
The commissioners'
Commissioner?
generals, for the most part, are almost done. I believe there's just a few that I'd like to discuss. Actually, the very first under commissioners, it's going to be your administration budget, which ends in '21. Is that what you gentlemen have on your first sheet?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I went through and did the salaries and whatnot, and again, I left everything status quo, quote unquote, other than office supplies, I increased by $500. So is there anything you would like to adjust there?
That'll be enough for all the BOEs that are coming through,
Well, we
potentially.
can hope. Other than paper, there shouldn't be much of a hit, but, you know, with all the copies and whatnot. We expended 5,188 in your office supplies to date. So Michelle keeps a pretty tight rein on that. And that included this current fiscal for, you know, the new stationery and whatnot for the newly elected. So that might be a safe number.
Peter?
Madam, well, I was gonna switch gears just a little bit, look at a different line item, I don't know if you're- on travel expense, we bumped up from previous years, looks like 1,800, or 1,900, 4,500, 8,300. Do we have, I don't have any idea if we're trending upward, or if this last year, or I guess the current fiscal year is a little bit of an aberration. Does anybody have a sense if this coming fiscal year is going to be?
It's going up on everything. I mean, everything, your mileage has jumped this year as far as the federal, all the airfares have gone up, all the hotel costs have gone up. So,
So back in '21, remember COVID's in swing? There wasn't any traveling and
yeah,
all
that's
that
the reason why it was so low back then, because you couldn't go anywhere. Everything was on Zoom.
And everybody still survived. I think you ought to do it all by Zoom as it is.
And the one thing to note, we do have Waco here this year. So we
Exactly.
won't have to travel for that. Currently, we've expended 8,373 to date.
But so like, that trip up to Gillette, that won't be there. So Waco's here. So that'll take out hotel rooms and travel and all that.
Have it your way.
Why are we zeroed on professional services?
It's because I was going to ask for your direction on that. There's some that I didn't even put a number in.
Good north.
So are we okay with 21?
For professional services?
No, in Department 21 for
No,
Commissioners
20, yeah.
Admin.
Okay, so we're still on 21.
Page 1. yeah.
Okay. Peter's confusing me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So
With
if we
one.
go to the next page, which is 33, Commissioners' General Accounts. If you look at professional services, I did not put a number in there because it has bounced around a lot, so I didn't know what the pleasure of the commission would be.
I don't know how we're gonna, figure this one, because like you said, it does bounce around. And we got numbers plugged in at other places for like some of the professional services, so
I will tell you, the majority of this expenses out of this line is for MOA architecture for this current fiscal.
The 2021 expended was so high, was that because of COVID related?
If I remember correctly, it was due to the hospital
Mhm.
sale.
Oh, okay.
and we don't have any building projects coming up where we, our paying for architect, the new ones, right? You've got that all figured out too. Besides yours and ours.
I don't know what we have figured out exactly.
Well, that's another conversation, Mr. Chairman, because we've been taking out some of the services for the health department out of this particular line item.
Yeah.
So we need to determine when we're going to start posting it to the allocated funds from the SLIB and whatnot. When and where we're going to, or when we're going to do that, I guess.
Well, it looks like the last couple of years, you had 75,000 in there, and then 73 was expended 21, 22, and we're at 40 now, this 41?
We are currently at 47,924 to date. So that doesn't include any vouchers that are outstanding, that are on your in your pile, if any.
I would suggest that we'd maybe go with where it was last year at 75, or do you think that's too high?
I'd say go to, I'd say go down to about 60.
I think it's too low.
Think-
My thinking is, we've got the lodge still, and whatever architect services there may be with that, and I don't know what other professional services we typically have besides, legal and architect, but, it's a $2 million deal for MOA on architecture fees. Now, not all of that's gonna come this coming fiscal year, but, there's just a lot that is potentially hanging out there, and I would hope that we're at least 75, if not more. I don't have a great level of comfort coming down below that.
Well, as far as the lodge goes, I'm comfortable that's not going to be a whole lot more that'll be added to it. So whatever you think with, as far as MOA goes, I would probably bump it just a little bit above whatever you think's needed for that.
Well, and I don't even know that would go into this line item. It shouldn't. I don't know if we trigger some reporting requirements or deadlines once we start using the ARPA funding. And, I do understand, that the clerk needs some direction at some point, and so does the treasurer's office, but keeping it in this 33 account for the time being might give us a little more flexibility.
Mr. Chairman, I do have 2 new account lines created for the health department, and the 2 pots of money that we've received.
What would be easiest for you to track and figure that out?
It's not the tracking that's the issue, it's the reporting.
Right.
So depending on, where we're posting the expenditure, what money that we're pulling from, then it's the reporting is and the deadlines for the expenses. That's the biggest concern of mine. If we're going to start using those funds, then we need to post it to the appropriate account line, the new account line, and do the reporting that's required. If we're still going to hold on to that and use other general fund monies for some more of that, then we would put it here. But we need to be very careful when we make that transition.
I'd suggest we leave it at 75.
I agree. I think 75 is good for right now.
The accounting and auditing, that's based on quotes from our current auditing service. That's based on particular scenarios if they have to do deeper digs and, without a lack of a better word, I'm not probably explaining it correctly, but if they have to do 3 control situations or 5, or it's based on that. So Nick and I took the mid-range number because with Nick on board, we have, our auditing expenses have come in a lot better than previous.
Well, the availability of auditors right now is just hard to get a hold of.
The MPO expenses I got from the city, the 911 expenses I received from the city. I know there was conversation about the 911, maybe some concern about that, but I didn't hear any more, so that's the number that I had plugged in. Any discussion on 911?
You got the number from the city on that?
Yes.
And well, what's our option? Or not?
Well.
Nothing right now.
I guess my question is, why in the world is it that much higher than what it, I mean, we've been running about $190,000 pretty consistently.
But those expenditures on this worksheet, you got to remember, there's going to be a timing delay for a June invoice. It's going to hit July, the next new fiscal. So that's, but if you look at the actual request, it was 249,340 last fiscal, it's 261, so there's an increase there.
Right.
But as far as expended, there's always a timing delay on that June invoice that hits the new fiscal, so it's always kind of behind. Sometimes also, we've expended 244,103 to date for 911.
Okay.
So it'd be about on target then?
I would say yes.
Madam Clerk, just in general, are these pass-through costs, or are there admin costs that are added to these from the city?
If you look, I believe there is a worksheet or a breakdown in your narratives. It's a numerical order, so you're looking at 7306 is the number, the account line beginning number. Obviously, based on a percentage, from what I can tell. It's this one, Peter. It looks like a grid. Yeah, that one. It should say 7306 in the upper right-hand corner in big numbers.
Yeah, 533, 306.
Yes.
I'm not seeing 911
That one's 911,
on it. Where the whole thing is?
just this first sheet, which goes with the next sheet. Those 2 sheets are for 911.
Okay. But it's still whatever, the cost is just a pass-through.
I would say yes, since it's based on, I believe, and Steve could probably answer this better, it's probably based on number of calls and population and whatever their formula
It
is.
is, it's
but-
based on the number of calls, how many you've got, so it goes up accordingly. In '22, we obviously had about 400 more calls than we did in '21, so, and that continues to go up.
And then, if there's no further questions on that, moving along, stationery and printed material, I left that as previously approved. Legal notice publications, I left that. as previously approved. Dues and convention expenses, those are your WCCA
So
dues?
there's a question on that one. I imagine it'd be this line. Do we want to increase that to pay, do that one-time pay? Or do we want to not participate in that?
What is it, 10% of the amount received, with bill, or?
Yeah, it's through the Madden formula that they figured out the whole thing. But it's basically the same as if we just basically making another payment. Try and pay that mortgage off.
No, I was thinking about the national.
Oh, the trail thingy?
Communities, no, not the trail thing that we're talking about tomorrow, no, the presentation that was at the last WCCA meeting, where the NACO and, Dave, do you remember, somebody, they created this rural county.
Oh, that's a totally different one. That's where they wanted to build up a certain amount for everybody across the board.
One time.
Yeah, it's a one-time deal, and they're trying to build up a certain amount so that they could, I can't remember all the details.
I'll pull it up on my phone, but I'm wondering how much that was, and if that's, I mean, it's a separate thing from what you're talking about, Jim.
Right.
It is, it's totally
But-
different.
But does it go here as well?
And we also need to probably talk about budgeting for Waco.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so.
If we just did that every
I'll be right
40
back.
years.
Waco's every year.
I know. Does it need to be every year?
Do you want to come back to that one, Mr. Chairman? Or do you want to wait?
We can come back to that one.
Okay. So, moving down litigation legal expense, that 30,000, Charmaine recommended that. We've only expended 15,000 to date.
I think we talked about that. We were kind of good with that, being at that 30.
Okay?
Yep. Tracy, on the property damage claims,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
we don't have anything listed in there.
Okay, so you got, I'm gonna look up.
Usually you have 5,000 in there.
That was moved to HR?
Huh?
That was
Oh.
moved to HR,
48,683.
So that was moved under risk management then?
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one we need to talk about in the future.
Mhm.
That one, we left at the 5,000. That's moved to HR. The insurance premiums, that's our liability, property, our fire suppression. So that number's good, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Move all the way down.
If I could ask a question on the reimbursements.
Yep.
Shows 21, 22, 95,000 in there.
What that is, we don't budget, when the child support enforcement, which is a pass-through, when they turn their monies back, then we have to post it to a particular account. So we don't budget, it doesn't hit our general ledger, it's a pass-through.
Okay.
So I just have to have something to post it to at the time that's done.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, circling back real quick, payoff, proposed payoff with the additional for the WCCA would increase one time 48,683. We have budgeted 50 right now, which is our dues. 46,984 is our dues. So if we went to 100,000 on that, that would give us our dues plus the payoff plus put in an amount for the Waco.
Actually, your dues are 47,193.
47?
47,193.
Okay. Oh, that's right, they went up this year, didn't they?
And can I ask what payoff, what you're talking about? What payoff?
The,
Don't ask.
okay, there you go.
Okay.
No, the WCCA building down in Cheyenne, if they can pay it off, then our dues can go down.
Thank you.
What kind of money, oh, sorry. go ahead,
Yeah,
Peter.
no, and over the long run on the mortgage, you know, they did the analysis and they're in love with the building and apparently, you know, it makes a lot of sense because of the proximity to the Capitol. And so we asked quite a few questions about that. It seemed legitimate to me.
Okay, thank you.
What kind of funding did you need for Waco, though?
Well, now that everyone's back from vacation and whatnot, we need to sit down and, we have money from previous
2 years ago.
efforts from generous sponsors. I think we have around 11,000, 10,700. Plus, we're still reaching out for sponsorship and whatnot. I'm not real sure I can give you a number. First thought comes to my mind is 25,000, but that may be high with the current money that we have left over, you know, that we didn't use during COVID. I guess I don't really have a number, to be honest.
So if we have 100,000 in that line item, though, that would cover paying off the mortgage and then paying our dues and give a little bit left over for that. Do you think that needs to be higher than 100,000?
How much is the mortgage?
48,600.
That's only going to give you about
48.
5,000.
Yeah, we're only gonna have $4,500 additional, that's not enough. Not from what you're saying.
Maybe bring it to 110 or 115?
110?
110.
Okay, is everyone good with that?
Okay.
What, Tracy, you have any idea what Waco usually costs to put on?
We can pull last,
You can get sponsorships in.
Yeah.
You are.
Say what?
You are
Ryan, what?
going to help get sponsors.
we
Okay.
did really well. We had, without having it, and like I said, we had 11,000 or 10,700 left over. So of course, we'd be using that prior to using any general fund money, so. And here we are with inflation and everything going up, we're fighting that battle too.
Did you find it?
I can't find it. Where are you at?
I'm sorry?
Animal control.
Animal control. That was provided by the city.
No, but I know what you're talking about. I remember that conversation, but I don't remember.
So are we good on that one?
Numbers.
Yeah.
I did have questions on animal control. Do we have somebody that liaisons with that group?
Yes.
Steve does.
Okay, so looking at the numbers and everything, we're at 14.87% of it. Do we know what percentages Evansville and Mills are of their calls?
Right offhand, I do not have that in front of me, but I can find out.
Because if they're anywhere around 14%, I'd like to do a contract rather than than what we're paying currently.
I don't
Because it's
think-
a whole lot different.
Yeah, Evansville and Mills pulled out completely a couple of years ago, and now they're using them again partially, but not 100%. Evansville, I think, did the same thing. I think bar none uses Metro.
Right, but if you look at the percentages versus the contract,
Right.
I can't compare it because I don't have
No.
numbers, percentage numbers for Evansville or Mills. But it doesn't seem to me that the county would have near as many calls as city personally.
Right.
And we
Yep.
don't. I mean, they're at 83%, we're at 14. Yeah, I get that, but what is the percentage between Mills and Evansville versus us, right?
Steve, do they still want to build a new building up there?
Yeah.
They want the county to participate in their new building, too.
Hmm.
Since I'm a dog lover, I'd like to see it happen.
I can solve Metro's problem, but it isn't a very PC way. But it'd be nice to know those numbers. It just seems like we're proportionally paying a little higher than what we might be.
See if I can get you an answer right now.
Cool, thanks.
Yep.
That's based on the number of calls to the jurisdiction,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't how we do health department.
I think right now we're good with that, though. I mean, it's something obviously we want to look into, but
That's kind of what I'm saying, too.
So, a couple more things before you break. Casper Area Transit used to be, I think it was CATSI, correct? Any questions or concerns on that?
Yeah, why is it on there?
Because they requested it.
Hmm?
Because they requested it.
They want us to contribute to it?
That is correct.
How much?
13,500.
Are any of the stops out in the county?
That I don't know.
But nothing has been spent in 2021?
Yes,
it's showing,
yes, yes.
it just shows expenditures on this sheet, 2021, or 2020, 2021, but not 21, 22,
Yeah.
or 22, yeah.
This current fiscal has been expended the full amount. I'm sorry, this current fiscal, it has been expended the full amount, the 13,500.
It did?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Any questions on that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Historic preservation, this is for hosting their website. It's for a booklet, printing the booklet. It's in your worksheets under 9128-00533, and there's a narrative in there for more detail.
It's a booklet for what?
History Tourist Booklet. The topic will be the New Deal. Features projects throughout Natrona that were built through the umbrella of the New Deal. Will be photographs, history, and directions to visit the many projects still available in Natrona County.
Do we ever consider going digital with those kind of things as being a lot cheaper?
Yes.
I mean, we're only paying $22.44 per book.
And so $6,524 for the book and $4,700 for printing the book.
Digital. Do it all for about 25 cents on the dollar. People just throw it away anyway.
Well, the only concern I have about that line item is it seems like they're asking for 11,000, a little over 11,000, and then 6,000 before that, but they really have never expended above. 2020 and 2021, they were at 6,000, but then 21, 22 at $354, and then 21, 22, 4,000.
This current fiscal, they've spent 10,866.
Okay.
But sometimes it is a chore to get people to spend their budget for whatever reason.
Are we okay with that one? Historic, yeah. Jim?
Historical, but it ought to be rethought out with respect to digital ability to do these things much cheaper.
Okay.
Salt
They
Creek,
do say the sales will be, or proceeds for the sales will be deposited back into the county, so I don't know if they're expecting to break even on that project. So I guess it's not like we're completely losing. I guess.
Only partially.
do you want to do one more, or do you want to break?
Can we talk about two other little things? And Mr. Chairman, I am trying to get in touch with Mike Christensen about this National Policy Center for Rural Counties with Public Lands. Something like that to offset the Bloomberg-funded National Policy Center for Urban Counties, or counties with urban centers, something like that. So it's to provide the perspective of what basically Wyoming has a lot of. And I think the proposal, and the commissioners can correct me if I'm wrong, was 1% of the PILT funding, which would be like 42 grand. 40-some thousand dollars is my recollection, that it was going to be a one-time ask to provide like seed money for setting this thing up and having an employee back in, I think DC. Jim?
Yeah, no, you've hit it on the head. That's exactly it. I don't know the numbers, but that's the purpose, is to try to give a Western rural perspective, education for the people that are back east making the rules on, to give that counterbalance argument of this is why we need this or don't need this compared to what's being bombarded into the senators and everybody back east in the capital.
As a Bloomberg issue, that Bloomberg sponsored.
Apparently, he's
The
one of the primary
municipality, but they're-
funders,
yeah, with-
or the Bloomberg Foundation, whatever, is one of the primary funders for the Urban Counties of America Policy Center. So I can't find my email, I can't find the handout from the WCCA meeting in Douglas. But I'd like for us, and I think the timing is such that, okay, I'm gonna get the email from Micah here in a minute, that now would be the time to commit that. They're trying to get all the counties in Wyoming that have significant public lands to say yes and participate in this.
I think it's a good deal from what I remember from the WCCA meeting. Primarily, again, to support our county rather than just being railroaded, as we sometimes see we get. Again, it'll come out of the PILT.
You mean federally railroaded?
Yes. And so, rules or whatever being created for out here, or created to support the urbanization, but not the actual rural counties or the states. So anything we can do to help offset that would be, without hurting us, would be good.
So I don't know if we need to make a decision before I get this email, but maybe after lunch, I'll have more information and the exact number, and I'll forward that email to you.
You know whether they're liberally inclined or
Which,
Bloomberg's outfit, because Bloomberg
Yes, they
Pretty
are,
liberal
they
guy.
are liberal inclined.
I don't know. I know it's
Well,
never been focused.
Even if they weren't liberally inclined, that their focus is on the urban settings and urban states and governments, you know, that's, we don't have a voice in that. We need to have something to give our perspective. But, yeah, I agree, you know, we need to support it, but we do need a number, what the county would
I would like to know
require.
more about the organization, because I know we support other organizations that are very liberal, and I wish we didn't support.
Well, we've already received it twice,
Received what?
the information on this policy center. that
Yeah,
we're
this
trying to
isn't the
set up.
Bloomberg one, it's the one to counterbalance the Bloomberg one.
Also counteract, yeah, it goes against it.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
I
this is,
misunderstood what you said.
No, this is for
Apparently.
mainly the western states that have a lot of public
If
land.
you're asking me to give money to Bloomberg, I
No.
say no.
No.
no, it's to
no,
counter
no,
that.
we are not.
And the
We are
urban
not.
policy center,
Far from
it's
it.
to do our kind of counterpoint.
I feel better now before I go to lunch.
But it was 1%.
Tell me to use this. I don't want to mislead you. and then-
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so, Madam Clerk, you want to, we'll pick up where we're leaving off right now when we come back?
Sure, it'd be great, thank you.
Okay, so let's break for lunch, and we'll come back here at 1:30.